Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast, which is brought to you by fans for fans, where the content is absolutely free. It's another bonus episode of the Gersnet Podcast. We're previewing the Aberdeen game tomorrow. We'll be presented with the SPFL Trophy tomorrow after 9-10 years. So looking forward to that. I'm your host for tonight. I'm Colin Armstrong. As I say to you every week, guys, it's not just the podcast we have here at Gersnet. We've got articles, there's a forum there, history archive on the website, and Frankie has his social media as well. If this is your first time listening to the pod, we would ask you to subscribe, leave a wee comment on our YouTube channel, and put the word out there on social media. We're live tonight. It's a Friday night before the game, but the podcast will be available to download or stream on a variety of platforms from tomorrow, including Acast, iTunes, YouTube, Castbox, Stitcher, Spotify, all the usual places, guys, that you get your pods. And now to bring in my guest for tonight, the average age is well up again tonight. It's John McCallum. How are you, John? How's your Friday been? You looking forward to tomorrow?
I am looking forward to tomorrow. Yeah, it's Friday's been fine. It's all about Saturday this week, though, isn't it? It's even the midweek game, you were just okay. Let's go over with. Let's give a Saturday.
It's been like that for March when we won it, really, isn't it? It's just like, just keeps that cup. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm delighted that we won it so early, but there has been a slight downside to that, and that there's not been the same sort of edge around the league games, although obviously we're still going for the unbeaten thing, and just waiting for the presentation. It just feels like ages, you know what I mean? Well, it must be about 2 months now since we've won it. So
absolutely, it was mid-March now. Tomorrow's the 15th.
Was it the 7th of March we won it?
No, but I'm saying tomorrow's the 15th, so
the 15th, so 2 months, 2.5 months. So it'll be good to finally get it.
Tomorrow's when you really feel as not being there. I think tomorrow's the day it really will kick in. It will seem a bit surreal not being there when they get the trophy.
Yeah, it's. I was actually thinking about it today, and I think this is the first time Rangers have been presented with the SPFL Trophy at Ibrox since 2003. Since that day, our 50th title, the day we played Dunfermline.
The shootout.
I can't recall, because in 2005 we won it at Easter Road. Then we won it at Tannadice in 2009. Easter Road again, 2010, and Rugby Park. So, this is the first time there's been a presentation at Ibrox for nearly 20 years, which is incredible.
I hadn't thought of that.
It used to happen all the time.
Yeah,
in my teenage years and early 20s, you know, it was every other season you were getting presented with a trophy at Ibrox.
That game you're talking about, when Arteta scored the penalty, the last goal, I was in an airport. Some bad planning, and I found myself in an airport getting that by text message. People texted me because you didn't have the internet. There was no apps and things like that in the phones, and I was getting that by text message in an airport.
Was it a Nokia you had?
It would have been, something like that. And getting it by text message. And what was one of the problems was there was about 8 different people texting me, and the phone was just going constantly. Who scored? And did that text come in because there was so many goals? It was nonsense.
Yeah.
And did that text come in before that one, or does it come after that one? Is this? That was an absolute nightmare.
It was brutal. I was there that day. I was in the Copeland Weir that day, and it was similar at the game, to be fair, because we were getting updates for the Celtic game. You know what I mean? So people's phones were going constantly. And the guy next
to after they'd lost the
Seville. Yeah, aye. So we won the treble that year, and they ended up with nothing. But the guy next to me, about 15 minutes ago, he just turned to me and went, "Colin, I can't deal with this anymore," and he left. he stood in the concourse until he just like, I can't deal with this anymore, it's too much. So he just went down in the concourse, and I think he sat in the toilet for the last 30 minutes and waited to hear the roar, you know what I mean? And then he came bounding back up the stairs when he knew we'd won it. It was brutal, and it wasn't until I think when when De Boer scored, because for a long period Celtic were in front.
Yeah.
You know, and then De Boer scored, and then Thompson scored quickly after that, and then I'm sure it was around about then that Alan Thompson missed the penalty, and that's when you started to feel it was maybe going to be your day. Yeah, but an incredible day, a brilliant day.
I do not recommend sitting in a French airport trying to follow a shootout last day championship decider. Tomorrow I will enjoy more, I'm telling you that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Right, so before we get on to tomorrow, I thought we would have a wee quick look at the Livingston game. I think you had a bit of a senior moment with that one, though, did you not?
I was kind of hoping you weren't going to tell. It turns out 1800 hours is not the same as 8 p.m.
No, it's not. No, it's totally different. To be fair, I nearly got caught out as well. It was on the day that I noticed it, and my son had a game. He was playing through in Stirling, so I'd arranged to run him through, and my wife was going to go and pick him up. And then, like half an hour before the game, I was like, "By the way, change of plans. I've just found out the game's kicking off in half an hour, so you're going to have to take him." So I didn't go down very well, but aye. But you missed the game pretty much in its entirety.
I missed most of it. I started my cousin and I text during the match. That's how we communicate, and I started noticing my phone texts coming in, and I'm sitting eating dinner with my family, and the phone. I'm like, what the hell's that? I'm like, why is he texting me things just now? What's going on? So I saw some of the second half. I didn't see most. I saw some of the second half, but I had other things going on with the kids and things. Unlike you, I don't abandon my children when Rangers are playing.
Every time. I'm sorry. they just get dumped.
You get more Gers points for that, to be fair.
Yeah, well, you get more brownie points for the wife, so it's 6.5.
The one balances the other one out.
Aye. I mean, the first thing I noticed was there's two things early doors. One, the sort of socially distant guard of honour. It's just a lot of nonsense, really, wasn't it? I don't want to play down, because it's quite sporting of them, to be fair. It's a nice gesture, but I just think people get so wound up about these things. I just think that's just a waste of time. I think they're generally a waste of time when, they're getting done normally. But when the team's coming out, 60 yards down the other end of the park, it just seems a total waste of time. They're standing there like that. So, fair play to Livy, but I found it pointless. And another thing I found quite funny was what's the Livy manager's name again? Is it Martindale?
David Martindale.
Wearing a pair of denims on the bench. You know what it reminded me? I don't know if you can remember. Every now and again, you used to get the shinty on BBC One Scotland on a Saturday, right? And I don't know what it was, and I don't know if it still happens. But everybody had a kit on apart for the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper always had like a shell suit top on and a pair of jeans, and you're just like, it looks like he'd been dragged out the pub like 20 minutes before the game, going, "Oh, somebody's not turned up, Angus. Can you fill in for us?" You know what I mean? And that's what it reminded me when I saw him sitting on the bench. I thought, has he got a game of shinty on the go?
I think you have to be quite drunk to be a shinty goalkeeper. It is probably, it's murder ball, isn't it? It's the most violent sport in the world. So no, yeah, Martindale's interesting, isn't he? He's a character of Scottish football, I think is how we say it. But it's not very, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the applauding the other team out the park. I kind of think that's not for the likes of us. Scottish football, that's us trying to pretend we're, I don't know, like some big league where everyone respects each other. We don't. We all hate each other. Yeah. Let's be honest. Livingston fans hate us. I don't have any feelings at all towards Livingston fans, but I don't really particularly want them to applaud me.
I think in everyday life you get that kind of hatred that you're talking about. I done a 10k run, and it was round Bellahouston Park out to Pollock Country Park and then back again. So as us slow ones were running out, the front runners were already coming back, right on the other side of the road.
Right.
So the first 2 or 3 go past, and folk were like, "Oh, brilliant, mate, well done." But the 4th or 5th one, it was like, "Get it up, you know what I mean?" Smart arse. So there's that kind of nature in us anyway, you know what I mean? So I found it a bit pointless, I must admit.
Don't be getting too big for yourself is how we view it. So I know the listener will be hanging on this, but are you a tracksuit manager or are you a suited and booted manager? What should a manager wear then? Well,
I think if Stevie G turned up with a pair of denims, there would be an issue. I don't know. I think a Rangers manager should always be wearing a suit. But obviously in today's game, the tracksuit seems to be more. Although Pep's went dead trendy, he looks like he's just community top man. You know what I mean? On a Saturday afternoon,
hoodies and things. Yeah. It's new money
with the kids.
New money, Man City, isn't it? It's not the same.
No. Did you see them celebrating the title outside the ground?
It's like 6 of them outside a kebab shop at 3 in the morning. Yeah,
it was pretty poor, wasn't it? Pretty poor. Anyway, back to the game.
Better celebrations at a funeral, to be honest with you.
Right, the penalty for the first goal, John. A lovely wee touch for Roof. I thought it was an exquisite wee touch. I don't think there's any doubts about the penalty. Good to see Tav getting a goal again for the penalty spot, because obviously he's missed a few recently.
No, he stuck it away well, actually, because the keeper went the right way. A Stonewall penalty for me. Hadji saw him coming, but Stonewaller, I don't think you can. I'm sure there are people out there who are howling at it. But
see, on Wednesday, I did actually. I'm not so sure, but I watched that again today, and I was like, no, actually, it's a Stonewaller.
Yeah. And the build-up was lovely, like you say. Roof. I thought Roof had a decent game, but. It was funny. It was a very Hadji-like pass. That's one of the things that Hadji does well. I think we're maybe going to talk about Hadji later on, but I think that's one of the things Hadji does well that often goes missing, is just that lovely one-touch pass and a player's away, and it completely changes the flow of a move. And it was a lovely ball. But Roof's a lovely footballer, and he's maybe back into form again.
It's just injuries that are sort of. Hold him back.
Absolutely.
I said that a couple of weeks ago. If he just managed to get a run at it, there would maybe be an argument to say that he could become as important, and maybe even more important than Morelos to the team. But as it stands at the moment, he's a bit like Ryan Jack. You don't know you're going to get enough games out of him, and then he's out for 3-4 games, and then it takes him 2-3 games to get back up to speed, and you can maybe get 2-3 games out of him, and then he's out again. So it's a bit frustrating. The second goal, John, I must admit, it reminded me, do you remember Defoe's goal? Was it against Ross County? Tav sort of floated it out right over, and Defoe just ran onto it, one touch, sort of passed it into the net.
Yeah.
And I thought Kent could have done that, but see when he passed it out to Morelos, I was like, what's he doing? And then Morelos got it back. It was kind of like, why take one touch when you can take 3? But it was still a cracking goal.
Yeah. Well, 2 things. I think not every football player can do what Defoe did with that goal.
No, true.
I think that's one of these things that he just made it look so easy, and in actual fact, that is a seriously hard skill. To cushion a pass like that with the accuracy he had on it. Most professional football players can't do that. I think that's the first thing to say. I thought it kind of summed up Rangers a little bit. Last season we would have done that, and we wouldn't have scored.
Yeah.
But this season when we do score, and our passing was crisp. Last season he'd have knocked it out to Morelos, and Morelos would have shot into the side net. This season Morelos has his head up, bounces it back to him. It was a lovely goal, lovely passing move. We spoke earlier today about goal of the season, and there's been 2 or 3 spectacular goals this season, but actually when you look back, there's been half a dozen goals, not unlike the second goal, where the passing, the movement, in any other season you'd be raving about them.
Yeah, there's been quite a few decent team goals this season.
Aye.
It was actually even like, obviously you're talking about we were voting for our player of the season and all that kind of thing today. I was struggling to think of the goals, because there has been so many good ones. And the one that stood out for me was sort of Tav's free kick at Tannadice, but. Yeah, there has been, thinking back as well, that goal against Galatasaray, it started for Alan McGregor, just passed all the way through, between the lines, goes to Barisic and he crosses it, and it's Tav. So it's one full back to another. Just brilliant stuff. But as you say, because there's been so many of those this season.
That goal's almost forgotten.
Yeah, it is, aye. There's no doubt about it.
The second goal against Benfica away, Kamara's goal, and that's another one that literally started off, about a yard in from our own penalty, their own byline, and we just passed it all the way up the park against, an exceptionally good football team.
A good team.
So, and I probably won't even make our top 3.
Actually, when that was mentioned today, I was struggling to remember it. You know what I mean? I just sort of really, because there's been so many this season. Yeah. On to the final goal of the night. Now, Hadji, we'll come on and speak to him now. Good finish. kind of showing that he's really two-footed. You know what I mean? I don't think it matters what foot that ball comes to. He's taken a one-touch finish. Finished it off well. Some really good work for Aribo, though. I thought, he done really well on that left-hand side to put in Eaton. And as I say, Hadji got the goal. And given his numbers, I was seeing the sort of names getting bandied about for Young Player of the Year. And to see that Hadji wasn't really sort of getting quoted for that. I mean, I think he's one of these players that does his job. He's almost, underestimated, seriously underestimated, because he goes about his job so quietly and so sort of professionally. I think people just take him for granted. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people who get frustrated at Hadji. They're not actually too sure about him. But when you produce the numbers, they're a bit surprised. I didn't know he scored as many as that. I didn't know I think he's got the most assists than anyone in the league. Yeah, and I don't think a huge amount of people know that. You know what I mean? He just seems to be one of these players that goes about his business quietly and in such a way that it actually maybe does him harm. You know what I mean? Because a lot of supporters don't appreciate how good he is.
Right. I mean, will we talk about Hadji just now? Because I agree with you entirely. I think Hadji has two problems. One, his transfer fee, that he costs quite a lot of money. And two, his name. His man will always be in the shadow of his father. And whatever he goes on to achieve in the game, his father will always be seen as a better player than him. And I think that's actually quite a burden to carry. But you're right. I suspect quite a lot of Rangers supporters would probably look at Hadji and say, if we sold him in the summer, wouldn't be all that bothered. Yeah. I don't think he's quite won the support over yet. And that's strange because he has played in important games and he's played well in important games, but he's also played in games that, with hindsight, have been important, but perhaps at the time we didn't, games against, teams in the bottom six.
Yeah.
Well, you got to win those games, and those were games we were losing last season. And I actually think that's one of the reasons Hadji was brought in, was to help us win games like that. His assists record is fantastic. Again, like a number of, for me, you get players like Hadji where it doesn't come off every time. And it just doesn't. That type of player doesn't always come off. The pass doesn't always come off. The flick doesn't always come off. But he's a hard-working guy. And what I like about Hadji is he doesn't hide. And even if it's not going well, he doesn't hide. He still gets stuck in.
I'll tell you something else. He's not scared either. He's got a wee bit of dig about it.
I think we completely forget about the fact that he actually is quite young. And you and I have spoken about this before. This year, some of these guys will have had a difficult year. Hadji, how many folk in Scotland does Hadji know? Not many.
Yeah.
He's a young guy. He's only been living here for 16 months or something like that. I won't know. So he's had a tough year. This is not the year he expected to have outside of football. And I think you sometimes have to bear that in mind. And I think we all forget what age he is. I think we think of him as a more senior player because he cost us quite a lot of money. I think if Hadji had joined us from Hamilton for 50 grand, I think if Hadji had been, Nathan Patterson, we would view him very, very differently.
Yeah.
Very differently.
Or even a Kamara, as you're saying, the 50 grand came in, something like that.
Perfect example. I wish I'd thought of him.
It was a better analogy, to be fair. But another thing he's got is I think he's not dirty, but he's got a bit of dig about him. You know what I mean? He's no fear to put a tackle on, and he's no scared to take a tackle either.
Yeah, no, he sees them coming. I think actually that's one of the strengths in his games is that he knows he's getting fouled, and I think he's ready for it. I think that type of player has to be hard. And I remember an interview many years ago, and there was a guy discussing the West Ham team, and he was talking about some player that West Ham had who was, kind of guy who was seen as a kind of hard case, and he was saying how, he's not the hardest guy in the team. The hardest guy in the team is this guy there who's the ball player, because every time he goes out, he knows he's going to get kicked senseless by the other team. Said, and still he gets up every single time, gets his head up and tries to make that passing. And there's a lot of truth in that. There's no point in pretending that these guys don't get affected by fouling. They don't get, of course they do. You've seen it with Kent. A couple of times you've seen Kent's head go down. I thought against Prague, Prague were, a lot of what happened after the Prague match overshadowed the actual match itself.
Yeah.
But one of the things Prague were really good at was fouling. It was a different player each time. They seemed to know the line they could get to without actually crossing it and getting somebody booked or sent off. And they did that to Kent the whole match. And it nullified him. He wasn't able to do what we know Kent can do. Hadji gets a bit of that. But like you say, he seems to get up, brush himself down, get on it.
Yeah, and as you say, that's a sign of a sort of a brave player. You know what I mean?
It's a brave player. It's a player that plays with his head as well. He knows it's coming, he knows he's getting it, but he's willing to get on with it.
Willing to take it, yeah. Moving on to tomorrow, the big day, so to speak. Now, before we go on and talk about the game itself, I think it's important that we sort of cover the sort of nonsense that's happening now with the sort of, the proposed celebrations in George Square and at Ibrox and all that kind of thing. And I don't know how you feel about it. The club made a statement today, saying that fans shouldn't, or they should remain safe. Essentially, they should celebrate in a safe manner. Rangers were getting a bit of criticism earlier on this week for not saying anything. I seen tonight, I was out for a walk before we came on air tonight, and I've seen there that Glasgow has been extended in Tier 3 for another week, which feels, I don't want to get all paranoid and all the rest of it, but the whole thing just feels political. And you want to know something? I am getting fed up with Rangers being used in this manner. You know what I mean? Nothing's even happened yet, and already the criticism's going, and you can almost feel like the journalists getting ready to sort of get started on this. I noticed Chris McLaughlin of the BBC, he made a statement today saying, according to my sources, Rangers are very angry. And you're thinking, well, how do you know? Rangers don't talk to the BBC, right? And someone pulled them up about it, right? And he was just like, someone who's very close to the story told me. And you're like, well, how vague is that? You know what I mean? And it just feels there's a lot of misinformation out there. I noticed Celtic put a tweet out saying we're closing our shop in Argyle Street tomorrow. Just all this utter nonsense surrounding this sort of celebration. And there's been other gatherings. There was one in George Square like 2 or 3 days ago, linked to the stuff going on in Palestine and Israel at the moment. So there was a big protest in George Square. And you don't hear any sort of complaints. You don't hear anyone coming out and saying, well, you shouldn't be doing that because of the current situation with COVID and all that kind of thing. And something that hasn't even happened yet it's in the paper. It's been a sort of daily news event all week this week, and I'm just getting fed up with Rangers being used in this sort of way.
I don't think I'm going to make myself popular here. I've been winning friends and influencing people in the Gersnet message board today. Can I tell you, Colin? I think I'm going to increase that unpopularity. I live in Glasgow. I am fairly unhappy about the fact that this, our level has been extended again. That I find very frustrating. That's going to affect me personally. It affects my family. It affects my job. I don't think that's a decision that's been made with Rangers in mind. I don't think that's a decision that's been made with any thinking about tomorrow. Maybe people will think I'm naive. I don't think that's the case. I'm not saying it's not a political decision. I'm not saying it's that politics hasn't played a part in the decision, but I don't think it's got a great deal to do with us. There is, from everything I have read, Colin, in the last 48 hours, and this has been coming. There's been murmurs about this now for a couple of days in Glasgow. So this has been coming. We've been getting prepared for it. And it hasn't made the news any easier to take, but we have been getting prepared for it. Everyone I've read about this Indian variant tells me that apparently it is 50%. You're 50% more likely to transmit it than the Kent variant, which was the apparently before this the most transmittable one. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, most of the more vulnerable people in our society have had a couple of vaccines now, and you're hoping that helps them. But I think we need to be realistic here, Colin. I think there is potentially a health danger to the people of Glasgow. because there's a fairly big upturn in cases. Now, without sounding too boring, there was always going to be an upturn in cases in Glasgow when the schools went back, when shops reopened, when restaurants opened, when bars could start, because people are starting to mix together again.
When there was protests in George Square on Wednesday.
So as soon as people start mixing together again, then you're going to see an increase in people catching this. So that was always going to happen. So I don't suspect that this has come as a huge surprise to health professionals, but I think politicians have made this decision because they're very nervous. They don't want to see having to shut down us in the summer and things like that. I think they're probably being overly cautious just now. So it's a political decision, yes it is. I don't think it's anything to do with us. I really don't think that, Colin. I think Chris McLaughlin's a walloper and not somebody that we should be paying any attention to. Like you say, he has got no inside information coming from Ibrox. I don't even think ex-players talk to Chris McLaughlin. No. His bridges were burnt a long time ago. He's mischief making, in my opinion. He can say what he wants, but he's mischief making, and the people who've pulled him up for that, more power to them. All that said, Colin, I don't think Rangers supporters should be anywhere near Ibrox tomorrow or should be anywhere near George Square. I think that's a mistake. Last time round I defended Rangers supporters. I think it was a fairly spontaneous outpouring of joy. People shouldn't have done it, but I understand why people did it. I think there was, as I said, there was a spontaneity about it. I think there was pent-up frustration. And then there was the outpouring of joy of actually winning a league. And not just any league, but the first league for a long time and the first league after that journey we'd been through. I absolutely understood it, and I defended the people who did it. I defended them to people who were very, very critical of them, and I defended them to people like yourself who were not critical of them in the slightest. I couldn't defend people tomorrow. We won that league. We just talked about it. We won that league 2 months ago. There's nothing spontaneous about this. You are not just putting yourself in danger. You're putting other people in danger. No, don't do this. This is a mistake. From a public health perspective, I hope people don't do this. I think it's a mistake. From an optics perspective, in terms of how it will look, I hope people don't do it, because we will be absolutely crucified in the press and in the media if we get thousands of people turning up there tomorrow. We will be crucified in the media.
Yeah, and I get that, but again, it's this consistency, John. It's I get what you're saying, concerns about the public health thing and all that, and I get that. I totally get that in this new variant. But we have seen public gatherings this week. There was one in George Square, there was one in Pollock Shields. Now, I saw someone today saying, there's a big difference between a group gathering for, to defend human rights than a group gathering to celebrate, a footballing achievement. And I was like, well, is there really? Because does the virus know, or that's a human rights based protest? So I'll stay away from that one. I'll just spread at the football one. If people are gathering, there should be the same criticism aimed at everyone who's doing it, and that's what I find frustrating. A lot of these events that have happened this week in Glasgow, no criticism for the same people who are coming out and demanding that the Rangers do something and that the supporters don't meet up. And as you say, preempting they're getting ready to put the boot in on Sunday and Monday when this inevitably does happen, because there will be a gathering tomorrow. I think we all know that. There's going to be people in George Square. There's going to be people at Ibrox. That's the way it is. So it feels like, there are other incidents of this happen. We've seen supporters gathering elsewhere as well. The Dundee United fans gathered a couple of weeks ago there to see their team off to the semi-final. Partick Thistle fans gathered outside Firhill when they won it. We've never seen anything like the criticism that was aimed at Rangers supporters for gathering in George Square a couple of months back. And it came out not that long after that gathering that there was no spite, there was no cases linked to that gathering. Now, I take on board everything you're saying. I get it. These are, I've never lived through anything like this. These are unprecedented times. I get that. But it's a lack of consistency that gets me. And it's the feeling that this has all been set up to just be one big shit show on Sunday and Monday in the papers and in the media. Coupled with the prospect, it feels inevitable to me that Celtic will make some sort of announcement this week. It feels like any sort of positivity which should be coming out of Ibrox now, given that we're just going to be presented with our first league title in a decade, is just going to be swept to the side. If there is an announcement for Celtic, all the good news, that'll get a lot of publicity, and all that we'll be left with is a criticism for fans gathering in George Square, and that's what annoys me. It's a feeling that this has just been building up all week, and there's not the same attitude being deployed to us as there is to other supporters, groups, whatever, who have been gathering. Apparently, I don't want to get into the politics, the constitutional debate now, but speaking to somebody today, and they're like, there's been loads of these sort of pro-indie marches and all the rest of it, all through this pandemic. And it's just not getting any headlines or coverage. And that's what gets me. If there is criticism to be had, fine, I'll take it. But there has to be consistency with that criticism as well. So if other, demographics are gathering in public, then they should be receiving the same level of criticism in our opinion. So
there's two issues there. What you're saying is you're unhappy because you feel that what we are seeing is football supporters, and particularly Rangers supporters, treated differently by the media. Am I paraphrasing what you? I would say what you've said into.
I would say more Rangers support, because we've seen. Even going back to when Celtic fans were rioting outside Celtic Park.
Yeah.
When they were getting chucked to the League Cup when Ross County beat them and all that kind of thing. For 2-3 weeks in a row, there was gatherings outside that stadium and incidents, and it feels like that just kind of got brushed over a wee bit. It was a minor thing, not that big a deal. They gathered outside Hampden to welcome the team when they were playing Hearts in the cup final. They were there when the team came out. They were gathered outside Celtic Park on Wednesday night to say cheerio to Bruni. It just feels like it's not the same attitude to these gatherings as what's building up for this. This is happening tomorrow. There's people going to be in George Square tomorrow. That's as simple. I'm not defending it, but that's what's going to happen, and it'll be the same at Ibrox. And it just feels like it's been building up, and it's just going to be one negative sort of shit show at the end of it all.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. I don't think I think the only people you can blame for that are people who are going to go. I'm sorry. Don't go. It's clear. Don't go. I've no particular interest in having a constitutional debate with you or anyone else on the Gersnet podcast, and I don't imagine any of the people who listen are particularly interested in that either. But football supporters have been treated differently from other sections of society for as long as I've been going to see football matches. Long as I have been an active football supporter, football supporters have been treated differently. That just happens. That didn't happen this year. That has always happened. You have always been treated differently. And without sugarcoating this, it takes football supporters dying before people even consider treating us in the same way as you would treat other groups. Okay? That's just the reality. And I don't think that's just the media. I think that's society as general. I think that's the police. I think that's society in general. They view a political march and they view a group of football supporters differently, rightly or wrongly. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it is. I'm just saying that's just a fact of life, and it has always been a fact of life. That's not something new. So have other groups of people being in George Square? Quite probably. I don't know. I've not been in George Square. If they have, like you say, it hasn't made much news. They shouldn't have been. They should have been criticised. That doesn't mean we should be there. That doesn't mean our supporters should go to George Square. And I do genuinely think part of this issue is George Square. I think if they stayed at Ibrox, I think if it was all on Edmiston Drive, I actually don't think there would be anything like the same level of criticism. There still would be some, but nothing like the same level of criticism. But you get to George Square, yeah, I think there will be a lot of criticism if a lot of fans turn up. I hope they don't. I suspect you're right. I suspect a lot will. I suspect a lot of supporters, but will agree with you. A lot of supporters are hacked off. They see other demonstrations, other large groupings going by, and nobody criticising them. and they see us getting criticised and they get quite annoyed about that. And I think we end up with a little bit of that no one likes us, we don't care attitude. Yeah. And I think that is to our detriment from a PR perspective, and I think it'll be an absolute detriment tomorrow. And like you, if us being presented with the trophy is overshadowed by events in the city centre or whatever, you know, I'll be really depressed. You know, you don't tune in Sunday night because I'll not be Sunday night if that's what happens. And yeah, there is a decent chance that is what's going to happen. So we just have to see. I also worry, and again, I'm the doommonger. You know, the Glasgow police were heavily criticised in some quarters after the last time.
Yeah, I think they'll be different this time.
You know, they weren't heavy-handed enough. You know, they should have kettled Rangers supporters. They should have, you know, forcibly dispersed them. The Glasgow police get quite a lot of criticism. You know, I worry that they might just think, well, I don't fancy being criticised for that again, so this time we'll be a bit more heavy-handed, and then you don't know where that goes. You just don't know where that leads. So I don't know. I am under absolutely no illusions that I have carried any authority with anybody listening. But as a Glaswegian, as someone living in Glasgow, I would ask you not to come. If you're travelling, don't come. You know, I don't think it's going to end well. You know, celebrate the day with your family. Celebrate the day. Watch. You're not even going to see the bloody game. You know, stay at home and watch the game. But
that's the one thing that gets me. You know, is you know, folks saying you're going to go to Ibrox. I was like, well, how would you see the game? You know what I mean? And you know, and that's what you want to see the game. And how would you see the presentation? Exactly. You know what I mean, you just be standing outside. But it's most folk I've spoken to have said they're going to try and make their way through after the game. But I suppose we'll see.
Right. And it's an early kick-off, so a lot of time. Look, Colin, last thing on this. I understand this, that, you know, football is, you know, part of football is being part of a crowd. You know, certainly part of football supporting. I mean, you know, you and I will not have to think long to give many, many examples of when you have been part of something. You have been part of something bigger than you. When 50,000 people as one have risen to something, that is part of football. Part of the attraction of going to see football is the absolute adrenaline rush that comes from being with other people, like-minded people, enjoying, you know, celebrating great moments, you know, going through horrific moments together. You know, that collective being, I get that that's important to football supporters. I get it. It's part of what makes us. It's why we give up our Friday nights to do this. You know, that's part of it. I understand that. I understand the desire to do this. And under any other circumstances, I would go along. But the circumstances just now, it's a mistake. I am in a minority on that. I accept that. I don't even want to see what the comments are saying on YouTube tonight.
See if I miss the last train, can I crash at yours?
I have a shed, if you can move the bike.
I'll wear my face mask, honest. Right, before we talk about the game, John, I need to highlight our partnership with Rangers Pick. So if you fancy winning a share of £2,500 this week, guys, then play Rangers Picks, the official Rangers Pick'em game, which is available to play for every Rangers match. It's usually free, but it's not this week. It's £5 to play this week. And to play, all you have to do is visit www.rangerspicks.com, complete a series of questions about the game tomorrow, and I'll give you a chance to win a share of that £2,500. The more fans that play, the more money the club receives. You must be over 18 to play, and terms and conditions apply. And as always, guys, with this kind of thing, please play responsibly. Right, John, so on to the big day, on to the actual game itself, and, you know, receiving the trophy and all that kind of thing. You know, the win on Wednesday, we broke our own record in terms of points obtained in one season. Could break the 100-point barrier tomorrow. Also the chance, if we win tomorrow, 100% win rate at Ibrox. Phenomenal stuff. And the worst thing about it is we've not been in there to see it.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope we're talking about that on Sunday night. Let's hope what we're talking about on Sunday night is the icing on a wonderful season, and doing it against Aberdeen. Aberdeen haven't been much of a challenger to us in recent times, but still quite enjoyable to do it against them. So that for me, in reality, the result tomorrow doesn't matter. And like you, I remember the first time I saw Rangers win the league properly. against Aberdeen. I mean, we get presented with it against, that was St Mirren. Ibrox. It must have been the following Saturday, or 2 Saturdays later, or whatever. And,
I was on the pitch that day.
I think we were all on the pitch. I think I actually still have a bit of the pitch somewhere at my mother's house, throwing in the grass. But I remember, I think it was Kenny McDowell scored for them. And Bobby Fleck scored for us, I think, and Kenny McDowell. So, I mean, the point was it was a one-each draw. It was a bit of there was a touch of anticlimax about it.
Did we not win that 1-1?
Physically.
I thought we won that 1-1.
Yeah, I thought we drew it. Anyway, I have been at these games where they haven't gone quite to plan.
Yeah.
But tomorrow's about getting the trophy, and that's what we'll be focused on. But I think it would be disappointing if we don't put Aberdeen to the sword. Breaking 100 points feels that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
When you consider where we were this time last year and how we all felt, that's phenomenal. I think in our wildest dreams we thought, if we are still in contention coming into May, give me that. Give me 2 games to go and we could still win it. The fact that we're having this conversation just now, what a season, what a team we put together. What a run. 100 points, unbeaten all season would be remarkable. That would be, and I use this word advisedly, that would be legendary. That would be a Rangers team that would be talked about for all time.
Yeah. I'd rather we got the Scottish Cup, if I'm being honest. But, the closer we get to it now that we're on the eve of a potential invincible season, you're like, when's the next time it's going to happen? That said, Celtic done it 3 years ago. And we've came like 2-3 years later and I went, we can do that as well, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, it would be good, but I still prefer the Scottish Cup, I must admit. But anyway, Aberdeen, John, you're talking about, last game of the season, presentation days that haven't went quite well. Now, apparently Rangers were close to an invincible season previously. I think it was in the 70s, and they lost to Aberdeen at home on the last day of the season.
Oh, right.
And I was at a game against Aberdeen. I think it was 88, 89, and they beat us 3-0. I was in the West Enclosure that day, and we got presented with it that day. So they've got previously. I mean, we've beat them every time we've played them so far this season, but. They consider it to be a bit of a rivalry. I only consider it a rivalry when we're up there at Ibrox. I don't consider these games that big, if you know what I mean. But the games at Pittodrie are always pretty big games. But, we need to be careful here. And we're down to the bare bones in terms of team selection as well. I think there's a chance that Arfield could be back tomorrow. But, I mean, he only named like 6 subs on Wednesday night there, 5 or 6 subs. I was very near getting my boot suit at the cupboard and heading up to Livingston, you know what I mean? See if I get a wee stint on the bench. But we have to be careful tomorrow. Have to be mindful that if we give Aberdeen the opportunity, they could spoil the day.
Yeah, Aberdeen are a better team than Livingston, so you would expect that.
Steady on, John.
They're a better team than Livingston. They're a funny side just now because since they changed managers. It's almost like they wrote the rest of the season off and they're kind of trying to sort themselves for next season. I hadn't realised they'd signed Declan Gallagher. Yeah. Scotland's centre-half, Declan Gallagher. I hadn't realised they'd signed him for next season. I didn't know that had gone under my radar. They're in funny form. They've won a couple of games. They beat Livingston. They beat St Johnstone, actually, who are obviously in decent form. But lost to Hibs, got hammered by Dundee United in the Cup. And played off the park by Dundee United, and Dundee United are no great shakes this season. So they're in funny form. They lost to Hibs during the week. Their season's petered out. They have a new manager who's clearly trying to. I think there's a few players will make their final appearance for Aberdeen tomorrow, and I suspect there's a few of them. Can't wait for the season to end. Their big problem is scoring goals. Lewis Ferguson's their top goal scorer and their top assists as well. So when you're, when a midfielder's your top goal scorer with 9 goals, I mean, I think he's scored the same amount of goals as like an average Rangers centre half this season. He's at that kind of level. So, look, Aberdeen, every team in Scotland lifts their game for us, and Aberdeen are no different.
Yeah.
They would we would really like to spoil our party. If we play to our strengths, they won't. Aribo at fullback is a worry. He isn't a fullback. Aribo at fullback is a worry. He played very well the other night. I suspect Aberdeen, if they see him, if it's the same team, and there was talk that Barisic might be fit, but
no, he did. Gerrard said he's out. No, the only one of the injuries that might make an appearance
Arfield
tomorrow is Arfield. Yeah.
Right. So fullback's going to be a challenge for us. I guess we're probably looking at the same team as started the other night. I don't know if Arfield would come in. I suspect Arfield best he would hope for is the bench. So, yeah.
Too soon for the boy King, you think?
He's not a fullback. He's a centre half. So, do you pitch a 17-year-old in out of position? I don't know.
That sounds a very Rangers thing to do, actually.
Yeah, it probably is, actually. You mention it, but I mean, you and I standing here would say, I give it a go. That's not what Gerrard has done in his 3 years in charge. No. He's not been somebody to. I can't decide whether Gerrard is it's just a case of nobody gets into that team unless they've earned it. There's never a case of, all right, there's nothing much at stake here. We'll give a couple of boys a game. We'll blood a couple of youngsters. I think his mentality, and I think the culture he's trying to build at the club is you'll only get on that park if you have earned the right to go on that park. So the fact he's 17, the fact that we're literally down to the bones of the team. We're not even getting enough subs on the bench. I don't think that's enough to get him on that park. He'll only get on that park if he's shown in training this week that he's better than Joe Aribo is at fullback, which you'd kind of think, surely.
Chance.
But I don't know. And Aribo did all right the other night. Strangely, I think Kamara was covering well, and actually I think it worked out pretty well. The centre halves, the centre midfielders did a great job in keeping it. And the thing is, then when you've got Roof, Morelos, Kent, and Hadji all playing, that gives the other team something to think about. And that's a fairly potent attacking force from there. So I suspect that will be how he'll view it again. I think he'll just say, right, you know what, just go in and just give them so much to think about that we don't have to worry about defending. That's my view on what will happen.
Connor Goldson, John, he's looking 5,000 minutes. He's going to break through the 5,000 minute barrier. He's played every minute, every game this season. When you consider where he was 3-4 years ago, heart condition, had to get an operation. And I saw a photo of him recently when he was at Brighton, and he's a skinny malink. You know what I mean? Physically, he has, he's come on leaps and bounds, and he's a leader of men. I mean, I know he's not the captain, but you can tell he's someone that's absolutely looked up to in that dressing room. And if he completes the game tomorrow, incredible achievement.
It's almost unbelievable in this day and age for a player in that position as well. In centre halves, it's a physical position still, probably still the most physical position in the pitch, and even from a position of not getting suspended. Most centre halves will pick up, accumulate bookings. It shows you how well we've played as a team and how well he's played as an individual. I like Goldson. Goldson actually was my player of the year last season. The rest of Gersnet was wrong last season, and I was right on that one. Oddly, he wasn't my player of the year this season, but I like Goldson. I think we take Goldson for granted, and at some point Goldson is going to go out of the team, and that's when you'll really see his worth. You'll realise what he does, because he controls that defence. He marshals it. He gives McGregor confidence. He gives the sitting midfielders in front of him confidence, but he keeps that line. And I think the other remarkable thing, again, we've probably overlooked is, he's had 4 different centre halves to play with alongside this season.
Aye. And, in the same month?
He started with Katic, and then obviously he's had Talander, he's had Balogun, and now he's got Simpson. And maybe he'll get King tomorrow as well. So that alone tells you something about him. saw an interview with Gerrard, I don't know, last season maybe, and he was talking about, will you rest certain players? It must have been a cup game or something. And said, will you rest certain players? Will Goldson be rested? And he said, no. Conor Goldson has missed enough football, and he's told me he never wants rested. Yeah. If he never wants left out of a team. If he gets dropped for form, that's one thing, but he never wants rested. He wants to play every single game because, I guess he had a period where he thought he may never play again. And as far as he's concerned, who knows what the future holds, to play every minute you can, which is a fantastic attitude as well.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of attitude that Davy Weir had. I think because he came into the game so late that he had this, I am just going to squeeze this sponge dry, and kept going till he was, 39, 40. So, yeah. Any wee concerns that, no deal signed yet for Goldson?
Aye. I would be surprised if clubs aren't interested in Goldson. And I would be surprised if, a middling... Goldson, for me, could play in the top league in England. I think Goldson could move to a team in the top league. He's not going to move to Liverpool. He's not going to move to Manchester City, but he could certainly move to an Aston Villa. He could move to a Crystal Palace and fit in very well. We forget, Brighton. Brighton were a Premier League team when he was there, and but for his illness, who knows where his career could have gone. It's a concern. The club haven't said a great deal about it. We just have to kind of see what's coming, I guess. But Goldson has value to us, and it would be very, very disappointing to see him go. But the better we get, for me, the big lure is Champions League. Because wherever Goldson goes, he's not going to get Champions League football. Yeah. So that for me is the lure. That must be, that must be in Morelos' mind. It must be in Kent's mind. Must be in Tav's mind, Barisic, all the guys who could go, Kamara, all these guys that could go, they must also be looking, thinking, I wouldn't mind I go to the Champions League. Yeah. I wouldn't mind a few games in that at that level, just to see what I'm like. So that's the lure. But yeah, I would be disappointed if he left, because I'm a big fan of Conor Goldson, and he's had a wonderful season. At 5,000 minutes, you can't quite get your head around how much football that is.
And how little goals he's conceded in that time, you know what I mean? Yeah. Of the 5,000 minutes, was it 13 minutes he's conceded? But on to the big thing tomorrow, John, the trophy presentation itself, that's the thing we're all looking forward to. And the achievement itself from Steven Gerrard. Now, when you look at it, I mean, they got manager of the year again today. When you look at the job over the 3 years, it's a feat in itself. But when you I always look at that Hearts game last season when we got put out of the Scottish Cup, and how he looked at that point, and he looked fairly broken, in my opinion. It's the only time in his Rangers career that I thought he looks like he's ready to walk. You know what I mean? And I think he was. I think it crossed his mind that maybe he'd taken Rangers as far as he could take them. And the season had kind of ended in disappointment last year. The turnaround, I mean, not just to win the title, but as I've said earlier on there, to win it so stylishly, to win it before the clocks had even went forward, the amount of goals that we've scored, how few goals we've conceded, the fact that we're looking at an unbeaten season, and also when you add Europe to the equation, the run again that we had in Europe, it's, as you say, it's a season that we'll look back on in years to come.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. After that Hearts game, you did wonder because by that point the league was pretty much, it was unlikely. Celtic were in a very strong position. With hindsight, with what happened to Celtic this season, you do now wonder if we got to finish last season, would things have been different? But who knows? You and I think it was you and I, maybe it was Ross, maybe it was David, I don't know, but I think it was you and I had a chat at the start of the season before everything started about what our expectations were and for Gerrard. And I think at the time I said, look, he has to win it. He has to win a trophy. Because even at the start of the season, we wanted to win the league, but I don't think any of us went in feeling massively confident that we were going to. We went in hopeful but maybe not. We're not necessarily confident. But we all thought there's a cup. This is a team good enough to win a cup. This is a team good enough to beat anybody on its day in the league. Our issue has been consistency. So we were, I think, thinking about what did we see, and I think a cup. And I think, ironically, because of the way we've played in Europe, I think that actually got Gerrard some breathing space. I suspect if we'd been, put out in the qualifiers, like, frankly, we've been used to over the years, and then had the 2 seasons that we had, Gerrard would have come in for quite a lot of criticism. As it is, he speaks so well. He conducts himself so well. He's got a tremendous feel for the club very, very quickly. He understands the supporters, and he's managed to build a team spirit that is second to none in the league. And I think, for me, the thing that's really swung it is the football we've played. I'm not saying this is the best Rangers team of my lifetime, but it's the one I've enjoyed watching most. The Advocates' first couple of seasons, we played some superb football with some fantastic football players. But I actually think this current team plays better football. I'm not saying they would have beaten that team. I'm not saying that team had some fantastic players in it. But I just think the football we're playing just now is even better football. In terms of watching, in terms of just being entertained, it's fantastic. And that's all down to Gerrard. Gerrard wants football played the right way. So I can't speak highly enough of what he's done.
Yeah. It's the Hearts game that I look at, he really did look, not a broken man, but it looked like it was getting to him, and it looked like he was ready for reconsidering his position. And to go for that to where we are now is, I've said it umpteen times, John, my man love for the guy knows no bounds. What he's done for our club is superb, and I'm really looking forward to him getting that trophy tomorrow. I'm happy for all the players, but I'll be glad. And for him himself, I think there's a bit of healing for Gerrard himself. Level. Yeah, for what happened to him. I think for him to be part of a team that's winning a championship means a lot to him. So aye, I can't wait till tomorrow. I'm actually.
Let's be honest, Colin. If he wears jeans tomorrow, you'll forgive him. That's how much you love him.
Oh, he can't be looking like a shinty goalkeeper going to pick up the trophy, John. That's just not on.
Steven Gerrard could move to Inveraray and actually play shinty, and he would never look like a shinty goalkeeper.
That's fair comment, actually, to be fair. But I'm pretty sure he'll not be wearing jeans tomorrow. But mind, put that spare bed in the shed just in case. Right. Right. So I think that's, we need to call it time there, John. So big thanks to John for his contributions tonight. Great stuff as always. We'll have a show out on Sunday night. It is Ross. Let me see. I've got it in front of me. It is Ross hosting, your man John McCallum there, and Stuart Weir on Sunday night, and they'll cover everything from tomorrow's game, including the trophy presentation and all that kind of stuff. In the meantime, however, get yourself onto the Gersnet website and forums at www.gersnet.co.uk. As I say to you every week at the moment now, guys, stay safe, look after yourself, especially tomorrow. Whatever you're doing, try and be responsible, support the club in the right manner. And until next time, bye for now.